We all have stories to tell. Someone might need to hear what you have to share. You hear about Bear Butte or you hear about Bear Lodge. These places are special and they're not just a place of the past. And the stories that go along with these places, they're really important because they connect the past to the present, to now. There's a meaning and a message to everything. And our elders are really important. At Yellowbird, everything that we do is about passing of intergenerational knowledge. That means passing of knowledge from our elders and those like older than you down to you guys, down to the next generation. And maybe someday you guys might be older and you might be here sharing stories with the next generation that's coming. And in our ways, all the generations are important. And all of you and Grandma Henry here and Philip and elders, they say in that circle of life, elders and children are closest to Creator because they're in that top half. Young people like you guys, you just came from the other side. You came from that other world to here, and you go around that circle of life, and then you get old again. And then you're getting ready to go back across the other side. And so you're close to Creator again. You're close to center again. So they say young people and elders are closest to Creator. And so we're real lucky that you guys are here. And we're really fortunate that Grandma Henrietta is here, that Philip is here, and that we have elders that could share. So that's why we're on this trip, is to reconnect you to these places and to the stories. Coming to these places, we learn a lot of lessons like patience, and we learn to listen, not just with our ears. Listen with your heart and your spirit, and listen with all of your senses. So with that, I'm glad Grandma Henry came all the way from Oklahoma. She came with her niece, Thalia, to assist her.
Now it's Lynette. Lynette is my little sister. And I was so fortunate, maybe 20 years ago, maybe even more, to be taken as her sister and Philip's sister. And I lived here with you all for about 45 years. I taught at the University of Montana in Missoula for 28 of those years. I taught Native American studies. And then in 2000, I moved over to Montana State University in Bozeman. And I worked there and taught there for 16 years. And I finally retired from teaching at the university level. When I see you, I am always just very happy that you all are here, that you are Cheyenne, specifically Northern Cheyenne, and that you are our treasures. We want to teach you all you know, all that you can learn about who we are as Jatistais and Sotdaya. We have a very unique way of looking at the world. And tonight I decided I was going to tell you the story about our beginnings as a people. It is one of our most sacred stories. And some people call the beginning of life, if they look at that holy book, Genesis. Well, we have our own Genesis as Cheyenne people. And it's very sacred. But I thought I better tell you about it to know where you come from, where we have been, and that you will carry this knowledge with you way, way into the future for a very long period of time. And so I'm going to say ivavet. Hakla ivavet means in the past of long ago. It starts out that way. All of our stories start out that way. It's just like those little fairy tales that we grew up on when the story says, once upon a time. Ours don't start that way, they say, in the past of long ago. Ivavet. That's the way our stories begin. And we are reminded that stories such as this can only be told at nighttime. For we believe as Cheyenne people, if someone tells the stories out of time, out of the proper time to tell them, the storyteller might develop a hunchback. And of course, there are other kinds of things that might happen to other people, like the Salish people on the Flathead Reservation only tell their stories in the wintertime. That's the only time they can tell them. And at their college at Salish Kootenai, they only teach their winter stories in the winter semester. The Arapaho people tell their stories at night, and except for those that tell their stories out of time, a snake will crawl into their lodge. These are just reminders of the consequences of our not following our beliefs as a people, as Cheyenne people, as Sudaya. And long ago, Ivavet, Mahel, and you've heard Philip talk about Mahel, your parents, everyone. It's the equivalent of what the non-Indian might call God. But in our language, Mahel, if you break it up, means the great one. That is that sacred being that gave us life, that gave us this mountain, that sent sweet medicine to bring us our teachings, that sent Erectorns, a female companion, to a mountain east of here that we call Black Mountain. And this man was Erectorns, and he and this female companion brought us our sun dance. The sun dance is a female dance. You know, we strive to balance our life. You go to these Anglo schools, but we also, as Yellowbird does, want you to also learn who you are and our beliefs as a people. So Mahil, I'll use that term, means the great one. Ma means big. In Mahal, someone is very big. And the O sound at the end means a being. You can't separate it. It's what is called a bound form. You just know that Mahil is creator, that Mahil created our world, everything in it, from this blade of grass to those trees on the side of our most sacred of mountains. He created that mountain. But he also created you, created us. And Ivavit, long ago, Mahil, was floating around in this world of nothingness. There was nothing there. And Mahil knew the power with which he was filled and said to himself, what good is power if it is not put to good use? And just as soon as he said that and said, how do you begin a project? If you're writing a composition for class, you say, you asked yourself, if you're writing a story, how shall I begin? We have those kinds of questions. When I was working on my doctorate degree, and I have a doctorate degree from the University of New Mexico, and I had to write a dissertation that became a book. I think I asked myself that same question. How do I begin? And Hill said, I know. He said, with this power, I know I can make a world and people to live in it. Because there was nothing when Hill looked around. There was only this world, an endless time of being. He said, I have to put my power to some use. And miraculously, Hill created 4 very powerful spirit beings. And Hill told him, watch me while I make a world and people to live in it. Hill was so powerful that he could think, and he brought those 4 beings into existence. They're with us today. I'll tell you a little bit more about them the further we go in the story. But Hill was so powerful that he brought sacred beings into existence entirely with the force of his thoughts. Just thinking. You got that same kind of power to create things, to make your life, to build a good life. Maybe one day have children, and maybe one day you'll be as old as me and be grandparents. But Hill then created 4 beings, and then Hill told them, watch me. I'm going to make a world and people to live in it. And again said, how shall I begin? 4 sacred beings had already come into existence entirely with the power of Hill's mind. And then Hill said, I am going to create sweetgrass. And you know what sweetgrass is. It's the greatest purifier in the world in terms of our teachings. When Modzi'ioy, sweet medicine, came out of this mountain after having been taught for 4 years in there by all of the spirit powers of the world, there was a spiritual being that preceded him out of this mountain and brought us our ways as Cheyenne people. And sweet medicine was told, follow him, follow that sacred being. We saw the lights. And Philip told you what and who they are. So sweet medicine followed this man, this very powerful medicine man out, or spirit being. And he had the sweet grass in his hand, and he burned it and came out of this mountain. And with that sweet grass purified this entire world, all of it. So sweetgrass is one of our sacred substances that is used in ceremony. Then after that, Hill created buffalo fat. That sweetgrass was the beginning of all plant life. And then once Hill created buffalo fat, that buffalo fat was the beginning of all animal life. And then Hill asked again, what else do I create? And Hill said, I know, sinew. No, it's our original thread. It's a muscle that lies along the backbone of a buffalo. Once it's dried, you can take it apart, and it's fibrous. And it's what our grandmothers used to use to make our moccasins to sew with. Very strong, because Hill said, I need something very strong with which to hold this world together. Now, we know and we have seen pictures from NASA of planet Earth, and we know that it is sometimes referred to as the blue marble where we live. It's our only home. That's why we need to take care of it. That's why we continue to do our ceremonies as Cheyenne people. He said, I need something very strong to hold this world together. And so sinew came into existence. Then finally, Hill said, what else do I need? And Hill then made sacred red earth. Sacred red earth paint that we call ma'ado. And it too is used in our ceremonies. Those 4 substances: sweetgrass, buffalo fat, sinew, and finally red earth paint. Ma'ado. And our people that go through the Sundance and our other ceremonies use those 4 substances. They always use them. And so then Hill looked at these 4 powerful spirit beings and he said, okay, you watch me. I'm going to make this world and people to live in it. But this world was very dark yet. And so Hill could hear the water birds swimming around in this big ocean of water. If you look at planet Earth, oceans cover the bulk of what planet Earth is: water. And we are taught that water is life. So we should use water in a very good way because it is life symbolically. But Hill could hear those water birds swimming around on the surface of this water. And Hill said, I should like to see what I have created. And as soon as Hill said that, light began to grow in the east, like we see every morning at dawn when that sun comes up. You know, my most favorite part of our Sundance ceremony, the women's ceremony, is for me when our men dance at the gate, at the door of the lodge, and they dance until that sun comes up to start another day, to give us another day to live. At my age, I am always so happy to see another day. It makes me even happier to see young people like you come into places like this. And so as soon as that light began to grow, then Hill looked around and he saw these water birds and he saw the fish swimming around in that deep ocean of water. Sometimes we want more. Sometimes do we really need it? In this case, these water birds came up. They says, Hill, we don't see you. We don't know where you are, but we know that your being fills an entire universe. We don't want to be greedy, but when we get tired of swimming, he said, we'd like to fly. He said, we can't swim like our brothers and sisters, the fish. And Hill said, then fly. And those water birds just skittered across the surface of this ocean, and they flew up in the air until Hill could see them become little teeny tiny dots up there. And then they dive back down into the water. And so they swam around And they said, we don't want anything else, but when we're tired of swimming, we like a dry, solid place to build our nests. And Hill said, okay, but I'm going to need the help of some of you water people. You're going to have to bring earth up from the bottom of this great salty body of water. And so this biggest of the birds came and she looked at Hill and says, let me please try. And so Hill said, I have asked for the help of all of you. Fly. And so this snowbird, strong, beautiful being, went way into the sky and she came back down and her beak pierced this body of water and she disappeared. And Hill and all of the other water people stood there and then counted to 400 times. Nook, nish, na, nif, and then start again. Nook, nish, na, nif. 1, 2, 3, 4. And finally, they waited a long time and they saw something swimming up from the bottom of this big salty lake. And they looked, and finally that being began to have a form. And finally, this giant snowbird beak pierced the top of the water. And Hill says, give me what you have brought. And she just shook her head no. She says, I did not bring anything back. And so Hill then looked at Loon Man. Ducks are called loons. And Loon Man said, may I try, please? And of course, Hill said, of course. I have asked for the help of all the water people. And Loon Man flew up and came down. And again, the water peoples and those spirit helpers that were watching Hill create this world all looked, they counted to 400 times. Loon Man came back up and Hill stuck out his hand because Hill could become like a man when he wanted to. So give me what you have brought. And Loon Man shook his head and said, I brought nothing back. And then one of his brothers said to Hill, let me try. And of course, they went through the whole process. A woman tried first, 2 of her brothers. And when this brother came up, Hill said, give me what you have brought. And he said, nothing. I brought nothing back. And I guess that sort of tells us that sometimes we fail, but we shouldn't give up, that we should keep trying. And so finally, there was this little coot who's I guess you can call him a mud hen too. But this little coot came swimming along the surface of this great lake, and he would shake the water beads from his scalp lock. And this little coot, and we'll call him that, swam over to where Hill was. He said, I don't know where you are, but I know that you are everywhere. May I try, please, Hill? He said, when I put my head down into the water, I can see something very far down. And Hill said, of course, little brother, everyone shall try. He said, I have asked for the help of all the water peoples. He said, so try. So that, we help take care of this place, this earth upon which we live for Hill. And so this little coot swam down and down and down. And of course he said, I can't fly and dive like my sister and my 2 brothers, but I'll swim down. And so he came back up and Hill stuck out his hand. He says, give me what you have brought me, little brother. And this little mud hen opened his beak, and out rolled a little ball of mud. And it rolled into my Hilt's hands. And my Hilt told this little coot, this mud hen, he says, "Now, Ish, thank you." He said, "May what you have brought always protect you." And so, even up to today, no one will eat a mud hen, or we might call him a coot, because his flesh tastes like mud. And no animals or people will eat him unless there's just nothing else to eat. And my Hilt told him, like, "Ha ha, little brother, now, Ish, little brother, may what you have brought always protect you, so that when you do good things, you gain rewards. You're given certain knowledge, certain kinds of thinking, a way to be." And so then Mahiel took that ball of mud, and under the power of Mahiel's hands, this little piece of mud began to grow, and it just got bigger and bigger. And finally, it became this earth as we know it, this place that we live. And so then Mahiel looked around, and there was a lot of earth here. He said, "I need someone to help me. I need to place this earth on someone's back." He said, "You fish," he said, "you live too deep in the water besides your fence. Cut the mud to pieces." He tried them and kept trying to find the right water person to place this mud on. And finally, there was only one water person left, and that was Grandma Turtle. And Mahiel looked at her and said, "Grandma Turtle, will you come and help me? Will you let me place this mud on your back?" And she said, "Yes, I'll help you, but I am very old and I am very slow." So Mahiel then took some of that mud. Under the power of his hands, he smoothed this earth over her back until she was completely hidden from sight. And again, Mahiel rewarded our grandmother, this earth. We call her grandmother. A lot of other peoples call her Mother Earth, but we always say she's first woman, she's oldest woman, and grandmother to us, Grandmother Earth. And then Mahiel also told her, he said, "May you be the only person that can go swimming or walking and live on the water or in the earth. Thank you, grandmother, for what you have brought this earth." And so Grandmother Turtle walks very slowly, even to this day, because she carries the weight of the whole world and all its peoples on her back. And so after that, Mahiel created two very powerful spirit beings, a man and a woman. And Mahiel was standing with his back to the east, to the rising sun. And this man, he says, "Go in that direction to the south." He said, "You shall live there," he said, "and your assistants are going to be the sun and thunder." He looked at that woman and he said, "The north shall be your home." And we call her North Woman. "And your assistant will be either Ho'emaha, is one way we know him, or Wotgim. He's Winter Man. He brings us cold, and he brings us death. And Ho'emaha doesn't have any pity on anybody." He brought a sickness and illness. But this woman that he listens to tries to keep him in check. And so this woman, North woman, and Ho'ema'a live in the north. But these two beings, North woman and Spring man, I guess we could call him, they're too powerful to live together. So whenever springtime is here, he tells North woman, go back to that place where you live. He said, go, because I have to bring the thunder and the rain, and we want our plants and everything to grow. We want our trees to grow. We want to water them with the rain. We want to nourish them with the sunlight. And so they come and they're here with us during the spring and the summertime, 2 seasons. And then North Woman and Ho'ema'a or Wookim come back to the center of earth, and they tell this spring man, go back where you came. He said, we want to spread a white blanket of snow over this earth so she can rest, so she can sleep. And they bring the fall and the winter time. So that's how we get the 4 seasons of spring, summer, fall, and winter with those two beings. They're here. They bring warmth and rain, and they bring cold and ice in those 4 seasons that we go through. And so they're still doing that. The one thing that to me is very important is that this earth, we let her rest. Hill lets her rest in the winter time, covering her with a blanket of white snow. I think after the Vale came here to live with us, they forgot about letting Grandmother Earth rest. And then finally, Mott Hill created human beings. And he put them far out in the universe. Then he called those 4 sacred beings to him and said, go out and find this human being that I have made with my powers to live on Grandmother Earth. Find them, a man and a woman, and bring them to me. And these 4 powerful spirit beings went out. The first time couldn't find them, a second time, a third time, a fourth time. Now, by this time, you have ascertained that 4 is very important to us, the number 4. It's called the number of completeness. You've got the 4 directions, you've got the 4 seasons, you've got the 4 different color of relations, the white, the red, the yellow, and the black. 4s. You've got those 4 sacred beings that live out in the universe. And so they finally found this man and this woman, human beings. And so Mott held them in his arms. And he told these 4 sacred beings, he said, now I am going to send you to the 4 directions where you will live. Your home, the first one, he said, your home is in the southeast direction of the universe. He said, your color is white. It's springtime. It's the beginning of life. It's infancy and childhood. And so he'll send that powerful spirit being out to the southwest. Now, we as Cheyennes put a lot of emphasis, if you've ever seen your father, your grandfather, or your spiritual people use their pipes, they point them to the semi-cardinal directions of the universe. They're more important for us than the straight directions of east, south, west, and north. We have those semi-cardinal directions. And then Mahel told the second one, he said, your home shall be in the southwest. He said, your color is going to be red. It's going to be the time of young people, your time. And the color red is a color of earth. It's a color of our blood, Ma. It's what we call our blood, Ma. You're going to be sacred red earth, Ma'ada. He said, you're going to be the most powerful in that age of life of young people. It's the time that you learn the teachings from your elders. So tonight, that's what you're learning from me as one of your elders, as young people. And you're in the very strong period of your life now. This is when we elders teach you our ways as a people. It's time for you to be educated in our cultural ways. And so that Ma'eon is what we call them, spirit powers. There's one that lives in the southeast, one in the southwest, and then he called the third one. And he said, the northwest shall be your home. He said, your color is yellow. It is the fall time of life. He said, and we cherish this color yellow because it's a color of maturity. It's a color that your parents are in now. When they marry, when they have children, when they become grandparents, when they continue our ways as a people, like Lynette and Philip are doing by bringing all of us here, bringing you here to learn our ways as a people, who we are as Cheyenne people. We're made of that red earth, and we're about the color of it. And so we cherish the color yellow, even though red and blue are colors that we value. The most important one is the color yellow. We cherish it. It's the color of the fall time. It's the color of adults, your parents, maybe even some of your grandparents. It's just a color that we love. Color yellow. It's perfection. It's maturity. It's a time for you to run your powwows, become members of your powwow committees. It's a time to do things. And of course, the whole time from the first time you was born and as you walk through being babies to being children and young people, you're learning your language now. That is something that was taken from us by the government, by those people that came to live with us, that sweet medicine said would come to us. He said, strangers are going to come to you from the east. They're going to bring strange and different ways with them. He said, there will be so many that you can't stand before them. He said, and they will want your land, and they will take it. He said, and they bring something that looks like a stick, but it speaks with a voice of thunder, and it will kill a lot of your animals, and it will be used to kill you too. And even today, when you watch television, you hear all this concern that we have as a country about the need to ban weapons. We hear about mass murders in schools, on college campuses, in shopping malls, in grocery stores. It's that same stick that speaks with the voice of thunder that sweet medicine said that those strangers who would come from the east would bring with them, and it would kill us all off. I want you to live forever. I don't want you to be killed with that weapon of mass destruction. But sweet medicine knew what they were going to do. He said, and you will call them the help. And that's what we call those strangers who came here after Christopher Columbus landed in this hemisphere, although he didn't know he was on his way to the West Indies. And he must have had a very, very bad navigator because when he landed here in the islands south of us, he thought he was in India. And the people that greeted him are relatives that live across the border. He called them Los Indios. And out of that comes the word Indian. That was what Columbus called us. But we know ourselves as Zatistas or Sotdayo or indigenous peoples. We call ourselves Hamawastanel. And so he went around, and finally there was that one spirit being was left. And Hill looked at him and said, "The Northeast shall be your home. You represent old age. You represent the time of learning. It's when you, as elders, teach the young people. It is the most peaceful time of life, but it means that you are getting ready to leave this earth and go back out that opening in this circle. Our circle has a little bit of an opening. That's where your spirit came through to walk on this earth. All of us. And then we've come around, and I'm getting pretty close back to that opening in our circle. And when we reach that point, it is a peaceful time, but it's also the time of death. But life may end here for us, but we go back to live in the world of spirit. There's a giant camp up in the stars, and we get there by following the Milky Way. And all of our ancestors that have ever lived here and walked on this earth live in that great camp. And our relatives are waiting for us to welcome us. And of course, when someone completes their life journey and goes back to live in, some people call it the next and final camp, our relatives are there waiting for us. And so that is just really a very brief summary, a shortened version of your beginnings as Cheyenne people. Statistis. Our world came into existence in that way. That's the way our grandparents explained it to us. That's why I'm telling you about it tonight. So we live forever. We're given life here on earth. We walk through this life. And incidentally, the only people that don't go back to live in that world of spirit are people that are very bad, people that are mean, people that hurt others. The others are those that commit suicide. They don't go back to that next camp. So, as Cheyenne people, as statistics, for us, suicide is not an option. It never has been, and it should not ever be. And you are the ones that are going to continue to carry our belief systems and our values. A very good and strong way of living. And you are very blessed. I'm blessed too. We all are to be born Cheyenne. I can think of no greater honor than to be a Cheyenne woman. And that's why you all are so smart. And you are so beautiful and so handsome. And that you have magnificent brains that you can learn anything you want. And that you think not only with the mind, and that was what Hill said. After Hill created the earth and looked down and said, "Grandmother Earth is the most beautiful of my creation, and this is where you come to live." But Hill did not think that with the mind. He thought that with the heart. So that again is something that is important for us to remember, to not only think with the mind, but to think with the heart and be able to think with both so that you can make decisions, good, sound, logical decisions, but at the same time, that you never forget that you are a compassionate, loving, caring, beloved person, that you love all others. And so I want to thank you for being very respectful and listening to me. And remember that you live and walk on sacred ground and that you have all of us around giving prayers every day, that you live good lives and that you remember who you are and you remember the teachings that we pass on to you.